I think it's about time, it seems like around now, that is about right to start having some sort of structure for that turquoise world, because I don't think there really has been as of yet. I believe that things like the Integral Institute um, and a few of these other communities have been somewhat, but they've been sort of a domain for yellow um, innovation and creation of texts that need to lay down the framework for a new way of looking at things. Although, and I feel very strongly about this, there's very few within that community that has really seen the depth of difficulties within the political and economic domain itself. So that has to be addressed in my view, and it hugely impinges on how a new society can be structured and built. I'll expand on that in a moment, but just getting to this idea of the creation of some sort of turquoise community, what would be the requirements of that? And how can it be made manifest? Because, you know, I think that there are people really needing something like that. The danger with something like a turquoise community is for it to fall into sort of something cultish, ish. Because it's unique, because it would have to be sort of unique in a place to connect in a new way, it would be a lot easier to go into the green route of sort of having some sort of dogma that's told not to be a dogma but really is, and then you follow kind of the pursuits of a more organic life, which isn't necessarily bad. It's probably still a step up in some regards of the present system, and it is really tough, especially within the kind of economic restraints that we find ourselves in. There's a few projects that I'm hoping will move forward in my world that might potentially allow this sort of thing to become manifest. But one element that I think would have to be scoped in there on a microcosmic scale would be a tripart system of sort of economics that could be made into the macro world. This is just my view, and there's others that are equally or even better perhaps, but the way that I've been looking at it is trialectics. And I think it takes the rational system of economics and upgrades it in a major way. The democratic system is glorious in many regards, because what it did is it institutionalized a tripart governance structure of executive, legislative, and judicial. And this separates the power, which needs to happen in a more open society to create more liberty and democracy. But what has happened, I think, is that because there's just a singular economic structure, it usurped it. It's easy to understand the lowest common denominator, that is, resources. And those people that have very little moral conscience can manipulate resources to maximize their standing in the world. It's a lot tougher for those people that may have pretty decent cognitive capacities, they're quite clever, but yet have a heart. They get usurped in such a system. They get undermined for the most part in such a system because the people that have no heart can just cut their throats, literally and metaphorically to some extent if it's well coordinated. So we have to find a way, in my opinion, to institutionalize an economic structure that makes morality / true creativity desirable and worth that is economically worth pursuing. It is in some sense for those people that have the guts to go down the creative route, to go into Hollywood, but there's a lot of risk in that, and therefore a lot of the good creativity gets undermined back towards that economic system, and it's hugely governed by the media structure that is a superstructure that controls many different domains. When you look into it, ABC, all these different media structures are all highly integrated and coordinated, vertically top down. And this is very much tied to just having a singular economics. So having a tripart economics with heart and head, that is emotion and creativity, we can create a more stable economic structure. One of the problems with this theory that I was presenting is that the heart shares were only for legislation. That is, they gave people the power to legislate things, and I don't think that's a very desirable thing for the average Joe. They're not getting anything really reciprocated, and I think emotions themselves are something that can be reciprocated through, those people that one admires. Maybe we can find ways to create systems that allow those people to connect with the people they admire if they get, heart shares. That's one way of potentially institutionalizing this. And it might very well have something to do with this subtle realm. Now, that in itself is a hugely controversial thing to say, but it's experiential. There is this sort of energy that extends out of one's body-mind through contemplation. It's there, it's real. And I think that there's even a deeper energy, some call it maybe the causal energy, and you can connect through things like meditation, the royal practice, to that sort of energy. These different energies have different correlations to some extent, like yoga is a good one for the body-mind connection. Maybe drug taking / visionary dreaming / all these or meditation with form is a good one to connect to the subtle realm where everything's elastic and highly under your control to some. But then there's an even deeper one where it's universally expansive. You feel kind of a oneness with all things, and they all play different roles in your being and are integral to living a healthy life. Those sorts of things have been suppressed and not really talked about, so it's not seen as very important. But to put this in summation, we need some sort of place where we can connect to allow these values to be more concretized and put into the world. An individual can only innovate so much. You need a locale where we are more highly connected to make a manifest. That's my view, if you will.